Well, hello and welcome to our latest Business Spotlight interview. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Fiona Mort, who is the founder and director of KM Media Ltd here in Northern Ireland. Hello, Fiona. How are you today?
Hello, Richard. I'm very well, thank you, and thank you very much for having me on board.
Oh, pleasure. Pleasure's all ours. Thanks for joining us. So why don't you share with us who you are, Fiona, what you do, and for how long you've been doing it?
Okay, as we said, I'm Fiona Mort. I am the founder and CEO of KM Media here in Northern Ireland. Primarily, we are a media planning media agency, advertising agency. We've got several clients on board from our launch, which was in 2018, but I'll come on to that in a bit. We've got car dealers, food manufacturers, direct, boiler suppliers, hotels, dentists, and a woman's health clinic. So we have a portfolio of different kinds of clients. And we take our clients' brief that they give us when they have advertising to do. And we look at their brief, and we put together a strategy for them based on our knowledge and our contacts. And that strategy would best implement their needs for their advertising campaign. And then we go away and put together a media plan with all the media options with prices as well that we negotiate for them. And that media plan is there for them with cost to advise them of the best media mix that will benefit them for their advertising. Now we launched, myself and Sarah, KM stands for Kennedy Mort. So my colleague Sarah Kennedy and I launched the company in autumn of 2018. We had a small portfolio of clients that came with us that we had before. But in our first year and a half, we really built that up. At that stage, I think we had about 15 clients. And as you know, a year and a half later, COVID happens. And all the clients then, what happens? The first thing that happens when a pandemic like that happens, all the shops shut down, dentists shut down, clinics shut down, everything. Car dealers, particularly, were really badly hurt by it. So the first thing to go is always their marketing and advertising, because that's always the first thing to be able to go. So clients were basically striving rather than thriving, and their whole business plans were changing. From our perspective, we had to as well. So Sarah and I decided, rather than above the line advertising, we would focus on digital. At the time, that was the only way people could advertise, and that kept us going. Thankfully, we were able to get through it. We didn't furlough ourselves; we flexi furloughed ourselves because we weren't making as much money, but it kept us above water. Now, thankfully, since then, we're back on board, and we seem to be back on track again, and the business is now continuing to grow. So,
excellent, great. It's always good to hear of businesses that have made it through that whole pandemic. Absolutely. And are starting to thrive.
There were quite a few local advertising agencies, unfortunately, did suffer and had to close. So we were very lucky.
Yeah. Super. So, Fiona, who is your ideal customer?
Well, I need to be careful here because all my customers are ideal. Anyone watching it, they're all ideal. But very good. I think a client who has a really good handle on marketing and advertising and how it works, because a client who understands that will appreciate the hard work and the effort that we go into in order to put the media plans together and negotiate for them. We buy all our advertising, whether it's TV, radio, press, or out of home. We buy it in bulk, so we get a discount that they wouldn't get, and we pass that discount on to them. We're very transparent in that aspect, and that's why the client appreciates what we do for them. So, in answer to your question, I think an ideal client would be somebody who has a handle on marketing and advertising, appreciates what we do, and is thankful for it at the end of the day. But they all are like that.
Very good, very good. So, what's been your biggest learning since becoming a business owner?
Well, everybody starts a business or launches a business to make a profit, right? Everybody wants to make money. I think my biggest lesson is that it's not always about money. It's about being taking pride in what you do.
Yeah.
And as I said, being transparent with our clients is something that's really important, and being honest with everybody you meet. At the beginning, I suffered a lot with imposter syndrome. I didn't believe in myself, and I think a lot of new entrepreneurs who start a business say exactly the same thing. So I have learned to believe in myself, and it's only really, happened in the last 2 years.
Yes.
Because imposter syndrome is very, very negative, and it can be very destructive to you and your mental health well-being. So I have a lot of other friends who have started their own business, and we talk to each other, about, yeah. In fact, only the other day, a friend of mine was in London doing business, and she was on LinkedIn and said, "I'm suffering from imposter syndrome. Why am I here? Can I do this? Is this possible? Is this really me?" So I sent her a message and I said, "You've got this. You absolutely are suffering from this, and I get it daily. Don't let it happen." So for me, that's a big lesson, and to support anybody that does go through it, because we all do.
That's super, and it's so important, and it's actually so much more prevalent than most people would believe or understand, and it's that support that's so essential. So good on you. That's excellent. Well done.
Yeah.
So let me ask, when you were growing up, is this what you always wanted to do?
Do you know what? Yes. And I can tell you, I was one of those kids that wouldn't let anyone switch channels when the adverts came on. I was obsessed with advertising. And my brother would sit there and go, "What's wrong with you? You've seen that Avon ad so many times." I go, "Yes, I want to see it again." I've always been fascinated by advertising and marketing. That's what I studied at university. I did a degree in business, but I specialised in marketing and accountancy. Don't want to talk too much about that. But yes, is the answer to that. I would say that I've always wanted to do it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Fantastic to be talking with someone who's doing what they actually always wanted to do and what they love. So what would have been the biggest issue that you've overcome, I guess, excluding the pandemic?
Well, let's not talk about the C word, as we call it. I can give you that answer categorically. I know what our biggest challenge was. As a new fledgling advertising agency, we were afforded absolutely no credit in our first year. So when we were placing advertising for our clients, we had to prepay all of their advertising up front. So the likes of ITV, Communicorp, Independent News Ireland, Bar Radio, none of them would give us credit. Now that was a challenge, and I have to be honest with you, I think it was our 5th or 6th month of being in business, one of our clients gave us a huge brief that included TV in Great Britain. So we were looking at ITV in Great Britain. So the budget was quite substantial, and we still had no credit. So we basically had to beg, borrow and steal to prepay that money. And that meant going to family, going to the bank, taking out a credit card that had a £25,000 limit on it.
Yeah.
I digged into our family savings. Sarah did her family savings, and we literally had it to 6-figure sum. So I can assure you there were a lot of sleepless nights around that whole month. But we knew and trusted the client that gave us the brief. He's one of our bigger clients, and when the money came back into the account, we were very, very happy. But I think you'll find that most businesses who start up will have a problem getting credit because they're new.
Yeah.
And they don't have that credit facility. So that was a challenge for us. But after 1 year, exactly to the date, we were then afforded our 30 days credit, which we give to our clients too. So it panned out in the best. But that was a real challenge at the beginning, I have to be honest.
Sure. Well done for persevering and overcoming that massive hurdle, which I guess people who are starting in business sometimes they don't even consider it. But it's so crucial.
Sorry, it is best to have a backup plan for instances like that. We didn't see that particular one coming because it was such a lot of money involved in it.
Yeah.
And that thankfully, we had our own savings with the bank, we had the credit card, and we had family who were said, "Here, here's some money." So anybody who is in that position, I would say have a backup plan in case something like that comes on board and you just don't have credit.
Yeah. Great advice, Fiona. So who inspires you today in business?
Um, I will always look towards female entrepreneurs, and I hope that doesn't offend anyone. It's simply because I'm a mother and I have to juggle all these balls in the air. I have to make dinner at night. I have to put a washer on. I have to empty the dishwasher. I have to do the earning. So running a business on top of all of that can be challenging, and that's why I look towards female entrepreneurs.
Sure.
There's a good few in Northern Ireland, so I'm not going to mention anybody in case I leave somebody off. But I am an avid viewer of Dragon's Den, and Deborah Meaden and what's that one, Sarah, can't remember the lady from, she's a Geordie. They are inspirational, and when I'm watching it, I'm thinking they should ask them about this, or they should ask her about that, and then invariably they do ask the question. So I'm like looking at my husband going, you see, I know I know what this is all about. But the female entrepreneurs who are also mothers inspire me immensely.
Excellent. Good. So do you have any favorite books or podcasts that you return to for motivation? Or
I don't really have to, now, I'll be honest, I don't have time to listen to motivational podcasts. If I listen to podcasts, they're generally for relaxation for me.
Yes.
I have the BBC Sounds downloaded on my iPad on Sunday morning when I'm preparing Sunday lunch or whatever. I will put on a podcast, usually from the BBC. There was one recent one, Victorian Lady Killers by Lucy Worthley, which was really fascinating. Some of these poor women put up with so much stuff. There was The Witch Farm, which is based on true life events of a haunted farm, which is really good. And there was a really sad one, which it was on the Jerry Bow show. It was called Fairy Meadow, which is based on true life events where an English family moved over to Australia, and within a few months their daughter and sister was abducted and was never found again. And they've spent the last 20 years searching for her, looking for her. And that was a pretty sad one, but it was a great podcast. I can highly recommend it. As for books, I've stopped reading those 5-minute management booklets. You know, they're very macro management, and that's not my style at all. That would have been very much the 80s type stuff. So at the moment, I'm reading a book my sister recommended called Good Me, Bad Me, and I'm finding it very difficult to put down. It's a brilliant book. It's a dark psychological thriller, but it's really, really good.
Very good. So what does the future look like, and what do you see as a main challenge moving forward?
Well, I don't know if it came apparent when we were talking, but I recently bought Sarah out of her shares. So now I'm the solo founder and managing director of the ad agency. We're still very good friends. It's very amicable. Sarah had another project on the go with her regarding her family. And she was going to step back, but it came apart that it would just be easier if I bought you out of shares, which has made me double busy, a lot more double busy. But when you're doing it for yourself, you find that. We're constantly building on our client base, which is something. Business development was always in my blood, and it's always something I did. I'm kind of a salesperson in my heart of hearts. So we are in line to build our client base by another 30% this year. Our billings went up by about 30% last year, and I'm aiming to increase that again to another 30% this year. Now that's going to require some incredibly hard work and a lot of meetings and a lot of lunches. But I'm on track to do it, and I have actually in my diary, I have set up 4 new meetings for when we get back from the holidays, the July holidays, with new clients. And they're all very keen, and they're all happy to have that chat and move forward. And one of them is a gin distillery.
Superb, very good.
Looking forward to meeting them.
Excellent. So what would you say, what would be your words of wisdom to anyone thinking of going into business?
Wow, okay. For first off, absolutely do your research. Make sure there is a gap in the market or whatever your business is going to provide, and make it unique. Make yourself a little bit unique. Sarah and I were the only ad agency at that time that was owned and run by women in Northern Ireland. And that's what made us a bit unique. So definitely do your research. I made a few notes on that one because that one's a really, I don't like to come across as condescending, because it's not my style. But if you're wobbly about starting up your business, ask somebody else who's done something similar. Because I think you'll find that most entrepreneurs are more than happy to supply advice and give you a brief talking, and give you an idea of what you need to do. I know I did. I spoke to a few people that were in larger agencies, but they were so helpful and so respectful and very happy to offer all the advice they could. So yes,
excellent.
Offer advice, ask for advice, and also be kind to your staff. Remember, I mentioned micromanagement doesn't work for me, and it never did. I've worked in some establishments where it was really tough going with managers who just simply weren't kind, and that didn't wash with me. And I've always very, very kind staff. If people need time off, give them time off. If people need to go home early for a family, go home early. There's none of this. Oh, well, you have to make it up. That's not normal. And as a result, people who work, or people who are managed by respect, give you it back by respect. If you manage by fear, you're not going to get much productivity.
Yeah, no, that's all excellent advice and insight. I think even in my own experience of 25 plus years in the business world and working from small firms to corporates, there is this general trend and change that we're now turning a corner and moving away from that sort of fear and to a far more
100%.
positive and I guess healthy, especially with the whole upsurgence in mental health and well-being. You know,
absolutely.
That companies are now working far better with people and looking after them much better than maybe in previous years.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I worked in magazines in London, and there was always sometimes a fear going into work. Oh, what am I going to face today?
Yeah.
And then I worked here in Northern Ireland for UTV, and the difference of the management style was so vast. And being kind to your staff is and I learned that from my lovely boss.
Superb. And it is so essential. So last question, and you'll be thinking, oh, fantastic. What is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old Fiona?
Oh. Well, to any 18-year-old, I would say travel. Do a little bit of traveling, because it's really important to understand and appreciate other people's cultures and language. I did travel. I traveled a lot, and I'm very, very lucky to have done that.
Yeah.
However, if I were to give anyone advice regarding business, I think the main thing would be to not accept some of the rubbish that people talk to you about or tell you, because I think trusting your instinct is really important. And when I was 18, I would have taken on board what some people would have said or the advice they gave me, instinctively knowing in my heart of hearts that it wasn't the best advice, but I would take it on and then go, oh, why did I do that? Why did I act that way? Because they told me to. Yeah. So trust your instincts, Fiona, is what I would say when I was 18. Believe in yourself more. I mean, I just said, about the whole imposter syndrome. You can do it. And I'd say this to all my friends, you've got this, you can smash it. Yeah. Sometimes I don't believe it from my own self. Yeah. But then, some months I go down and I say to John, I've just finished my tax return or my corporation tax bill, which proves that I've done it,
Yeah.
So believe yourself is something. And don't let contradictory or passive aggressive people stop you from doing what you want to do.
Fantastic. Excellent. Great advice. And Fiona, look, again, thanks a million for joining us today. I'm sure all of our viewers are going to love this interview and the nuggets that you shared with us today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.